Hello friends, how are you all? Welcome to our HTML training session. Today we will discuss HTML forms. An HTML forms is a part of web page that collects information from user. It contains input fields such as text box, checkbox, radio button, and button. When a user submits the forms, this information is sent to the server for processing. Forms are used for various web interactions such as login, sign in, or making online purchase. They make website more efficient in handling and processing user input. Now, let's look at the basic structure of forms. I will open my code editor here. As you can see, this is the complete HTML structure for our forms. The forms is displayed on the web page. First, let's start with the form tag. This tag defines the forms in HTML. It has an opening tag and a closing tag. Next, we have the label tag. A label tag defines a label from the input elements. For example, here you can see label like first name, last name, email, and message, making it easy for user to understand what information to enter. After that, you will notice an input field with the type set to text. This is used for single line text input like first name and last name. Next, there an input type email. This create an email input field that validate the format of the entered email address. Then text area element. This is used to create multiple line input field typically for user message. Finally, we have an input type submit. This create a button that submits the form. Here, for example, I can enter any text in the first name field, the last name field. So, in the email field, user can only enter a valid email address. Next, let's talk about the message box or the text area. Then, we have the submit button, which allow the form to be submitted when clicked. Now, let's discuss HTML form attributes. HTML provide additional information and control to forms. Action. This specifies the URL where the form data will be sent after the submission. Method. This specifies the HTTP method used to send the form data. Common method are get and post. Then target. This specifies how the response will be displayed after the form is submitted. Common value include self, blank, open the response in a new tab or window. Ink type. This specifies how the form data should be encoded when submitted. It is used when the form includes file uploads. Then autocomplete. This enable or disable the browser autocomplete feature for the form field. Then no valid data. This disable the browser default from validation. Let's open the code editor and see how these attributes work in the form. In the action attributes, we specify the URL where the submitted data will go. For example, when the form is submitted, the data will be sent to the URL defined in the action. Then the target attribute define how the response will be open. If target blank is used, the response will be open in a new tab or new window. The autocomplete attributes control whether the browser suggests saved input to the user. If it's off, the browser will not suggest anything. But if it's enabled, the browser will provide suggestion as you type, such as previously entered email. No valid attributes disable from validation. For example, even if required fields are empty, the form will still submit without any varying. Now, common HTML form elements. First, input type text. Used for single line text input like name. Then, input type password. Used for entering password, hidden character. Then input type email, ensure the entered value is a valid format. Then input type number, use for numeric input like phone number. You can also set minimum and maximum value. Checkbox, let's use select multiple option from a list. Then radio button, also user to select only one option from a list, such as male or female. Input type date, use for selecting dates, like a date of birth. Input type file, for uploading files like image, resume, or documents. Text area, allow user to enter multiple lines or text, such as message or comments. Then select, create a drop-down list for selecting option like country or state. Then button, use for action like submitting or resetting a form or custom action. Then label elements, add a name to an input field, making the form more user-friendly. Input type hidden, used to include information that is not visible on the form but is sent when the form is submitted. Then input type range. The range input let you select a value between maximum and minimum range. For example, if you set the value between 1 and 100, you can use this. Example of input type in a form. Input type text. Let you type single line text like name. Then password input. Allow hidden text input. Then email input. Ensure valid email formatting like this. Number input. Allow only numeric value. Then checkbox. Let's user select multiple options from a list. Radio button. Allow selection of one option from a list. Male or female. Like this. Date input. Used to select date like birth date of event date. File input. Let's user upload file such as resume or image. Text area. Used for multi-line inputs, message or comments. You can adjust its height, row and column. Select. Create a drop-down list for selecting option like countries. Range input allow user to pick value within a defined range. Then button. If click submit button, then form submitted. HTML input attribute in forms. Type. This define what kind of input the field will accept, like text, password, date. For example, input type text. Then name. The name attribute identify the input field when the form date is submitted. For example, name, username, specify that the input is for the usernames. Value. This set a default value for the input field. Placeholder. A hint for the user about what to input. It should disappear when the user start typing. For example, placeholder. Enter your name. Display this hint in the input field. Then required. This make a field mandatory. If the user does not fill it in, the form was not submit. Read only. The read only attribute make the input non-editable. User can see the value but cannot change it. Then disable. This disable the input field so user cannot interact with it. Then max length. Set the maximum number of the character a user can type. Then min and max. These set the minimum and maximum value for numeric or date input. For example, minimum 0 and max 100. User can only enter number between 0 and 100. Then pattern. This validates the input using a regular expression. Then autofocus. Automatically focus on the input fields when the page loaded. Now, we will see this step by step with examples. Here, I open my code editor and you can see the first input. Field is of type text. We can enter my name or text into this field. Next, you can see a font field in the tell input type. We have set a pattern where the number must follow this structure. The first three characters should be number 0 to 9, followed by another three characters 0 to 9, and finally four character 0 to 9. So the total character will be 3 plus 3 plus 4 is equal to 10 characters. For instance, if I enter a number here, you can see how we can define such patterns for four numbers. Now, there an input field of type numbers. Here, a limit is defined where the minimum value is 18 and a maximum number is 100. If I try to go below 18 or above to 100, it was not allow it. Next, you can see the use of a text area field, which is marked as read only. This means you can only read the text within it, but you cannot edit or input anything. For example, I can resize this field to make the content more visible, but I cannot modify the text. Then, there are checkbox with the required attribute. If I try to submit the form without checking this box, it will display a message saying, please check this box if you want to proceed. Only after checking the box, I can submit the form. So friends, this was an overview of HTML forms, their elements, attributes, and their uses. If you have any question, feel free to ask in the comments. Keep smiling and happy coding. Thank you.